Today, we are diving deep into Arundhati Roy's incredible novel, The Ministry of Utmost Happiness. And let me tell you, this is a story that does so much more than just entertain. It really makes you grapple with some of the toughest questions about the world we've built around ourselves. It all kicks off with this really provocative question. What if that whole march of progress, the idea of building a modern nation, actually comes at a totally devastating cost? And what if that cost is paid by the most vulnerable people? This question is, without a doubt, the beating heart of this entire novel. So that brings us to our first section, where we're going to look at exactly that, the true price of progress. The book just throws down a gauntlet, challenging that whole conventional story we're told about what it means for a country like India to become modern. See, the book argues that modernization isn't some nice, clean, upward line for everybody. No way. Instead, it's often a really brutal exclusionary force. It's a process that actively shoves entire communities and their ways of life right off the map. So who are the casualties in this version of modernization? Well, the novel breaks down this devastating cost into three big areas: the human cost, the environmental cost, and the cultural cost. But first, we really have to get what the novel means when it says modernization. It's not just about getting new gadgets. It's this very specific vision of super-fast industrialization. We're talking steel factories and skyscrapers popping up where forests used to be. Rivers getting poisoned, bottled up, and then sold back to the very people who used to depend on them for free. The novel sorts all these consequences into three major buckets. You've got the displacement of people for big projects, the terrible impact on the environment, and this deep, fundamental shift in culture itself. So on the human side, you see these families who farmed the same land for generations suddenly just gone. Their rich, fertile land is literally grabbed for massive infrastructure projects, highways and dams that really only benefit a handful of people, while these families are forced into the brutal struggle of city poverty. And then you have the environmental toll, which is symbolized so powerfully by the vultures. To keep up with growing market demands for dairy, certain chemicals were used. And the tragic, completely unintended side effect? The vultures who ate the carcasses of livestock were poisoned and basically wiped out. They become this haunting symbol of nature being crushed by commerce. The cost hits culture, too. In the conflict-torn region of Kashmir, you have these cinema halls, which were once these vibrant places for community, for sharing stories. First, they're shut down by insurgents. And then, in this really dark twist, they're taken over by the military and used as interrogation centers. A space for art becomes a space for violence. It's chilling. But against this bleak backdrop of destruction, the novel offers up this incredibly powerful counterstory. It's a story about creating a sanctuary for the shattered, about building a paradise in, of all places, the most unlikely spot you could ever imagine. And this sanctuary is called Jannat, which means paradise. And what's so wild is where it's built. The main character, Anjum, creates it inside a city graveyard. I mean, think about that paradox. She literally transforms the place of death into this vibrant, thriving hub of life and community. And this is where you can really see the book's central conflict laid bare. On one side, you have the dunya, the world outside, which is all about horror, violence, and rigid social ladders. And on the other side, you have Jannat, this sanctuary built on the idea of radical, total inclusivity, where everyone can just be. So who gets to live here? Oh, just about everyone and everything the outside world has tossed aside. Marginalized people like the Hijras, the community of transgender women who are so central to the story, but also animals, insects, all kinds of plants. It is a complete and total rejection of the "you can't sit with us" logic of the dunya. This brings us to what might be the novel's deepest message, and it's found in the resilience of the unseen. It's all about this stubborn, persistent hope that's embodied by the smallest, most overlooked beings you can think of. And the ultimate symbol of this resilience is the Khwabgah, or the dung beetle. Yeah, I know. A creature most of us would just walk past, or maybe even find a little gross. But in this story, it represents the stubborn, beautiful persistence of life itself. To really get why the beetle is so important, we have to talk about resilience. The novel defines it as the ability to bounce back from completely terrible conditions. And it's more than just getting by. It's about finding a way to create meaning and joy in a world that is actively trying to crush you. The dung beetle ends up being a mirror for the novel's characters. Just like the beetle, they're seen as unclean or unimportant by the powers that be. And yet they keep going,
building their own intricate worlds and finding their own kinds of happiness, totally against the odds.
The image of this little beetle just captures the book's final message perfectly. It's this idea that even when stories are completely shattered and people are broken, something essential is still there, a stubborn, almost irrational hope.
So the biggest takeaway here is that these characters don't endure by trying to fit into the modern world. They do it by embracing everything that world has thrown away. They find their wholeness by gathering up all the broken pieces and slowly becoming everything that was abandoned.
And that really leaves us with one last question to think about. In a world that feels more and more broken every day, maybe the greatest act of resilience isn't trying to rebuild what we lost, but learning how to find a new, beautiful kind of wholeness in all the fragments.